Hi, so in today's online class, we're going to be talking a lot about our front belt wrap. So this class is definitely aimed at beginners. So new people, you might have just received one of these beautiful fabrics in your home and you're still looking at ways to develop your confidence in the silk. Also, this particular pose can feel very uncomfortable for some people. So I'm really going to be breaking down all the different alignment cues so that you can really find some comfort and release in this amazing pose. All right, so the first thing we'll talk about is the placement of the fabric. So that's the most important part. And to find the correct placement for your own body, the easiest thing to do is to bend your knee. And if you notice exactly where your hip crease is, this is where we want to place that fabric. So starting behind your fabric post, you're going to grab the fabric with your palms face down and then separate that fabric to about hip distance. From here, you're going to come onto your tip toes and then glue that fabric, pressing it really firmly right at that place where your hip crease is. From there, you can step 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. And then we're going to slowly draw the chest forward, leaning into that fabric. So we want to keep tension in the silk as we fold forward, allowing that fabric to stay right in that hip crease. From there, fingertips come to the ground and we can step both of our feet back. So this pose here is what some people call our supported downward facing dog, but this can still feel like very uncomfortable in that hip crease because actually it's when you lift your feet off the ground, you'll notice that fabric rolls back a little bit and that actually allows it to slide right into that hip crease, feeling a little more comfortable. So once you're in your inversion here, a number of different ways we can find release in the spine. You can start by swaying the hips gently from side to side. You can take your legs wide to a V. You can bend your knees in and gently let the head drop down towards the ground. If you're going to bend your knees in here, the thing we're looking for, the most important part, the lock in this pose, is that your knees or legs are at least parallel or lower towards the ground. You never want to lift your legs up towards the sky because of course that's going to result in you slipping out of the fabric. Good. Another pose I really love from here, it's an incredibly restorative pose, is our fallen leaf pose. So to do that, we're going to drop the elbows down to the ground right underneath our shoulders. And then you just let the ankles gently cross on top and you can just let everything relax here. So there shouldn't be any muscles holding on at all in this pose, which really gives you that opportunity to relax into it, using the breath here to let the body be heavy and just letting go of any tension. Good. If you're a little newer to this pose, a nice thing to do with the toes, if you feel or don't feel quite supported here, you can always let the toes come to your fabric posts. So notice how my toes just gently tap on the posts here, and that gives you that added security. Now I'll show you how to safely come out of our front belt pose, and then we can talk about a few other poses from this position. So from the front belt, it's good if you walk your hands forward slightly, pressing into the ground, and then just letting the feet come to the earth right beneath your fabric post. From there, rolling slowly up to standing. And just taking a few breaths here to recalibrate after your inversion. All right, so Next, we are going to go into our front balance. This particular pose is a really amazing strengthener for the spine. It also is very fun and playful, and so we'll talk about that. So this is another pose from our front belt. So again, we're going to come onto our tiptoes and take that fabric right to that hip crease. I'm going to show you a different way to enter this pose this time. This is a nice way to strengthen the back muscles as well. So this time I'm going to walk forward slightly, creating a lot of tension on that silk. So I'm leaning my body into that fabric so much so that I can actually release my hands and that fabric still stays right underneath my hip crease. From there, I'm going to extend my arms up by my ears. And if you're in this pose with me right now, you'll feel an amazing activation of all those muscles on your back. From there, you can fold forward, hands to the ground, just like before, and then lifting those feet to let that fabric roll into that hip crease. Okay, so for our front balance, we want to tuck our knees in towards our chest. We're going to reach our hands up for our fabric post. Now the grab is really important here, that you have your thumbs down and your fingers up towards the sky. So I'm going to grab right above my bottom, and then I keep my chin tucked in, and it's a simultaneous rolling of the chest as the legs extend out behind me. So I grab the post and I roll up here. And from there, we're trying to find our balance point on this silk. So your chest is lifted, your legs are extended, your whole body is active, and you're finding this balance right here. Good. And notice how my chest is lifted. My body's in a kind of upward facing dog position, and that's how you're going to find the best balance. Now the challenge here is keeping that core engaged. So notice how the belly just wants to kind of hang out. So we really want to draw those muscles in to activate the core. And then you can, of course, play with different arm movements here. You can take the hands to heart center. You can take one hand forward, one hand back. That makes it quite challenging. Another way to play here is to roll in and out without using the hands. So this is a little more advanced. It just takes a little bit more articulation of the spine, but we're just simultaneously rolling and lifting like so. So notice how I do use a little bit of momentum, but eventually we're trying to do that with no momentum at all, just the strength of the back muscles. And then to come out of that pose, we take the hands to the ground, swing ourselves forward, let the feet land in the middle, and slowly roll your way up. A really nice pose to come into after a few of these front belt inversions is a pose I like to call Matahari pose. So I'll show you this from the front side. So as soon as you lift up from that pose, this fabric is just resting around your belly. If you take your hands up, we're going to grab, the right hand is going to come around the back of both fabrics to grab the left post. Our left hand is going to come in front to grab the right post, and then we simply pull them apart. So all we're doing is crossing those fabrics, and I'll show you behind the back how that looks. From there, I'm going to nestle the back of my head into that fabric, and then I want to close the fabric around my ears. From there, we're just going to lean back, and as you lean back, that fabric creates this compression around the head. Just kind of nestle the head in until it gets comfortable. You can interlace the hands behind the head like a little pillow, and we just lean into that fabric. It feels really supportive, and the fabric closing the ears shuts out all of the sound. So it's a very meditative pose. And you can just sit there for a breath or two, just coming back to center. All right, so the next pose we're going to be looking at in our Front Belt 101 is our wheelbarrow pose. And from our wheelbarrow pose, we're going to work on a little core strength and conditioning that is a really good way to work up to doing handstands later. So again, we come into our front belt here, so we take our hands wide, come onto your tiptoes, glue that fabric right to the hip crease, little baby step forward, lean forward, hands come to the earth, and then feet lift off the ground. So from here, I'm going to bend the knees, separate the legs, and hook the feet around the outer edges of the post. Now this is a place where a lot of people in a lot of the beginner classes make the mistake of hooking their feet the wrong way. So I'm going to show you, because this is really important for the safety of this pose. So the correct way is opening the knees and feet and hooking them around the outsides of the post. But it's very, very easy to just take the feet and hook them on the inside like that and feel like you've got it right. Okay, but of course the risk, if your feet are on the inside, you're not locked in correctly, and that of course can result in falling out. So again, legs around the outside. And if you need to just look up to make sure your legs are around the outside, then do so. So once you're in your wheelbarrow pose, we want to walk the hands forward and keep the hands nice and wide so we create a lot of space here in the shoulders. The upper body is doing pretty much a downward facing dog. We're not trying to press in and arch up like this. We're really trying to lengthen the spine, the neck, and the shoulders. Good. And you can keep the arms active here. So rather than just flopping everything down, arms are active. And with those active arms, you're pressing the armpits down towards the ground. You can take a little sway of the knees from side to side. Again, one of the beautiful things about aerial yoga is we get to be really dynamic. We have all these opportunities of movement within the poses, so make the most of that. And of course, using the breath here to further deepen the stretches, further deepen your awareness of the body in these poses. So this is our wheelbarrow pose. So now, from here, we're going to come into something called a push press. We'll take the hands directly underneath the shoulders, maybe slightly forward, and we're simply going to press into the ground, hug our knees in towards our chest, and try and stack the shoulders above the wrists. So you can see little shakes happening in my body here because I'm really having to activate my core. It takes a lot of strength to hold this pose, and then you can just relax out and come in again. Pressing in, arms are active, hands and fingers gripping into the ground, knees squeezing together, core is strong. And that's a push press. And if you really want to work those muscles, you can come in and out 5 to 10 times. You can either come in holding for one breath and releasing, or you can come in and hold for a few breaths. And then when you're ready to finish, a nice way to relax after that pose is coming into our fallen leaf pose that we did in the beginning, elbows to the ground, feet gently crossed above the bottom as you relax. And then whenever you're ready, coming out, hands to the ground, swing yourself forward, feet come to the earth, and rolling up. Sometimes it's really nice to use the fists here to just thump out those hips, because as you notice, that fabric really does press into those areas. And for some of us, that can feel very tender, especially for those of us who have very strong muscles in that place. People who run, people who do a lot of cycling. So if you are one of those people, this pose is so, so, so good for you. And even if it feels really painful, really uncomfortable, which it quite often does in the beginning, I really encourage you to keep going, because eventually it's going to feel so, so, so good. This was originally one of my least favorite poses and soon became one of my most favorite poses. All right, so we're going to do one last pose here for our front belt 101. And we call this our front belt bow pose. So this one is a really good strengthener for your bottom and your hamstrings. All right, so coming onto the tiptoes, gluing that fabric to the hips. You can try one leg forward, one leg back. Folding down, hands to the earth, and then lift those feet up. Good, so similar to the wheelbarrow pose, but slightly different. We're gonna bend the knees, and we wanna place the soles of the feet onto our fabric. Okay, so we're not hooking, we're just placing the soles of the feet onto that fabric. It's a gentle placement, but you need to make sure those feet are firm and feel very secure. From there, we'll take the hands in towards the chest, and we're going to press the feet into the fabric, trying to lift our chest off the ground. Good, and you can do little pulses here. And you'll soon feel those muscles getting hot in the back body. You can also take the hands wide, really trying to lift up. Good. Extra strengthening would be to take the hands forward and try and lift up from there. When you're done, hands to the ground, release the feet, swing forward, feet to the ground, and slowly roll up. Good, and when you're done, another way to release and just come back to a grounding place is to take this fabric around the chest and just leaning forward in a little ragdoll pose. All right. And that's it for today. We hope to see you again soon. You can check out some of our other videos. We're going to break down some other very important inversions, and then we'll be adding a lot of really fun and unique dynamic flows where you get to put all of this stuff together. Thank you for watching.